Luna, we must discuss Morgana. Morgana, what about her? It appears that you don't hold her in high regard. What topic are you discussing? You are well aware of what I mean. Since she did not complete her high school education, do you think less of her? No, I don't. That is untrue. Luna, I am familiar with you. Something is wrong with the way you treat her and speak to her, and it's not acceptable. My family is limited to Morgana. She has supported me through everything since our parents went away many years ago. I don't think we can get married. Can't treat her with respect. You can't be serious, Liam. Neither Morgana nor I intended to upset you. Simply said, I believe that education is crucial. I am aware of the value of education, but Morgana has had many difficulties in her life. She has had to put in a lot of effort simply to get by because of her mental health problems. However, she remains one of the most wise and kind individuals I've ever met, and I refuse to tolerate anyone treating her poorly. Okay, Liam, it's not really that big of an issue. Could you please simply unwind? Luna, I want you to consider this carefully. It means a lot to me. Are you following? My name is Morgana, and I'm a budding romance novelist. Writing has always been my passion, and I'm thankful that I can support myself by doing what I love. But things were extremely different for me a few years ago. My parents died in a horrible accident when I was in high school. My entire world had been flipped upside down, and I was in complete shock. I was unable to go on to school. I struggled with depression and deteriorating mental health for a very long period. It was difficult for me to appreciate anything at all, therefore I was unable to even write as much as I wanted to. However, despite everything being dismal, I was happy about Liam, my older brother. 8 years my senior, Liam took up the role of caretaker for me following the passing of our parents. He assumed parental duties over me, and I will always be appreciative of all that he has done for me. We had always been really close, as if we were each other's family. For me, Liam was not simply my brother, he was also my buddy and guardian. He would constantly put my needs and happiness ahead of his own in order to ensure that I was secure and content. We experienced our fair share of hardships as children. Due to our limited finances, Liam was forced to work many jobs in order to make ends meet. As I grew older, I became more aware of the sacrifices Liam had made on my behalf. I knew I would never be able to repay him for everything he had done for me since he had placed his own goals and aspirations on wait in order to take care of me. Fortunately, he went on to become a very prosperous marketer. He has also been a huge supporter of my desire to create fiction. I eventually resumed writing and enrolled in classes to expand my knowledge. I made a self-promising to myself that one day I would make him proud and earn enough money so he could follow his goals as well. However, Liam's desire was more straightforward than I had anticipated. He just wanted to be a father and a spouse. My brother began considering starting a family of his own as he grew older, and his profession became somewhat more secure. I was happy for him and encouraged him to keep looking for the right woman. I was aware that he was deserving of love and happiness. Liam took me out to dinner one day, along with Luna, a lady he found on a dating app. At that time, they had been dating for a long and had even discussed getting married. Liam appeared to have found someone wonderful, and I realized this was a serious situation. I could see they were drawn to each other right away when he first introduced her to me. She was humorous and intelligent, and she made a great living as a journalist. Luna and I were getting to know one another rather well over dinner until we got to talking about my schooling. So, Morgana, which university did you go to? Oh, I actually didn't graduate high school. Really? Yes, I had some difficult circumstances in my life at that time. Oh, I see. Well, everyone in my family values education highly and is an academic. I doubt that I could comprehend the decisions you made. Come on, Luna. In her life, Morgana has accomplished a lot. She works diligently and has surmounted several obstacles. It's all right, Liam. Not that Morgana doesn't work hard, but knowledge is power. It serves as the cornerstone of prosperity. I know that, but there are other paths to success outside schooling. I'm content with my life situation. I just find it unbelievable that you did not complete your high school education. It's only elementary schooling. Without even a high school degree, I mean, what type of work options could you possibly have? Please, Luna, let's talk about this another time. All right. Morgana, I don't mean to be impolite, but I simply cannot envision not completing high school. It's only an essential component of a person's work. Luna, that's enough. Luna paused her speech and gave me a disappointed, yet kind, grin. She attempted to clarify that occasionally she would overshare her ideas, and that she was just a very honest person. Though I told her everything was okay, I had a bad feeling that something wasn't right. I was so uncomfortable for the remainder of the evening that all I wanted to do was go home. I didn't share my feelings with my brother since I didn't want to destroy his brand new relationship. Even though it took him a very long time to locate a life partner, Liam was always there for me. A few days later, I unintentionally overheard him talking to Luna in the living room. They believed I had retired to my bed. Luna, we need to talk about Morgana. What about Morgana? I've noticed that you don't seem to respect her very much. What are you talking about? You are well aware of what I am discussing. Do you think less of her since she did not complete her high school education? No, I don't. That is untrue. Luna, I am familiar with you. Something is wrong with the way you treat her and speak to her, and it's not acceptable. My family is limited to Morgana. Our parents were dead for several years. She has supported me no matter what. I don't think we can get married if you can't respect her. Liam, you can't be serious. Neither Morgana nor I intended to insult you. Simply said, I believe that education is crucial. I understand the value of education, but Morgana has had many difficulties in her life. She has had to put in a lot of effort simply to get by because of her mental health problems. However, she continues to be among the most kind and bright individuals I know, and I will not tolerate anyone treating her disrespectfully. It's not a huge thing. Liam, please. Could you please simply unwind? I need you to treat this seriously, Luna. To me, that is really important. Do you get it? They became silent immediately after that, and I couldn't help but feel terrible for the two of them. I made an effort to be genuinely kind to Luna in the hopes that she would like and accept me more since I didn't want to be the cause of their argument. She was my brother's partner, after all, and I wanted her to be content too. As the days went by, it appeared that my efforts were having a significant impact. I got a part-time job through Luna at a beautiful publishing house owned by one of her cousins. She expressed her desire to use my expertise to help, and I happily obliged. The majority of individuals at my new employment were kind, so it was not exactly what I had anticipated. I continued getting distracted from the real writing assignments by their constant requests for coffee, but I was unable to give up. I was aware that I had to have tenacity and resolve. Fortunately, I soon had the opportunity to work with Isabella, an extremely accomplished and generous editor. She thought highly of my writing and constantly assigned me challenging but worthwhile assignments. She smiled beautifully, and every time she gave me a look, I felt a peculiar sort of peace. Even though we hadn't seen one another in a while, she seemed like family. She became one of my closest pals very soon. Regarding my brother and Luna, they promptly became engaged. They've been at a classy venue preparing their wedding, and I'm really happy for them. It appeared as though everything was going smoothly for every one of us. That is, I believed. I had to stay up pretty late one day at work since I had so many last-minute assignments. I chose to head downstairs for some late-night munchies. I didn't want to bother Luna or Liam, so I tried to remain as quiet as possible. Abruptly, a very low voice called out from the kitchen. Before I knew it, I heard my name. Oh, Morgana, that tiny child. I can assure you that she wouldn't last a year at that firm. Do you honestly believe that I would let such a dumb girl to destroy my marriage, Mom? Naturally not. Luna's voice was heard. However, the manner she described myself shocked me to no end. Despite our disputes, she had never treated me so badly and rudely before. I had truly believed that she was a kind, trustworthy, and endearing woman. I was so taken aback that I was immobile. "Mom, please don't worry. She wouldn't be liked by coworkers. I've already requested that they only assign her the silliest of chores. She has to stay there at least after the wedding, even if she wouldn't learn anything. I take care of Liam, and she loves it." I went to my room and shut the door since I was at this point unable to listen any longer. As it turned out, Luna was only attempting to win my brother over and had disliked me from the beginning. I wasn't sure whether I could tell Liam what had occurred, but I wanted to. He had a deep affection for Luna. I resigned from the publishing firm the next day, determined to succeed on my own. I no longer wanted to be dependent on Liam or Luna. Their lives were their own, and I didn't want to be an inconvenience to them. My only want was for Liam to fulfill his aspirations and find happiness. Luna's mother phoned me when she learned that I had resigned my job and begged to see me in person. I tried to remain composed so that I could continue listen to her even though I was still quite upset by the chat they had about me. Luna's mother, introducing herself as Mrs. Han, welcomed me to a very lovely city coffee shop. "Morgana, I heard you quit your job at the publishing company." "Yes, Mrs. Han. I wish to not bother anyone with my presence." "Oh my goodness, you are such a considerate woman. I specifically wanted to meet with you today for that reason." "Really?" "Yes, without a doubt. You see, every member of our family has achieved success in business, law, and journalism. Your brother doesn't look good being seen with someone like you." "You mean someone who had not graduated from high school?" "Yes, exactly. What are you trying to tell me? Your brother's wedding is the subject. Although I am sure you are eager to participate, I believe it would be best if you stayed home." "What do you mean? You know, your educational background isn't quite as extensive as that of the other visitors. I worry that you may make your brother and the family seem bad." "I apologize, but I don't get it. Being his sole family member and sister, I don't think my educational background matters. You ought to act in his best interests if you are, in fact, his family. Consider it, Morgana. He would never ask you to carry out such a task." "No, he wouldn't. But you know that it is the right thing to do." I felt my heart begin to sink at that same instant. I would never forgive myself if I embarrassed my brother on the most significant day of his life. I never wanted to be a burden to him. There were just a few days left before the wedding, so I had to decide. I was unable to tell my brother what had occurred. I didn't want him to perceive me as humiliated and ashamed of myself. I made the decision to go alone in its place. I simply had to get away. I didn't have a specific destination in mind. To ease my brother's mind, I disclosed that I was enrolled in a training program. I made an effort to put the incident behind me as I made my way through strange towns and cities, but it continued to bother me. I didn't know where to turn and felt abandoned. I stopped, and Isabella found out right when I needed it the most. It didn't matter how or when she found out. I'm not sure. I could sense the concern in her voice when she contacted me right away to see how I was doing. It brought me back to reality as if it were a lifeline. I was hesitant to tell her what had occurred at first. I was worried about coming seen as weak or condemned. Eventually, though, I was unable to hold it in. I told her everything, down to the last detail, so I could get it out of my system. Isabella patiently listened to me without interjecting or passing judgment. She also didn't provide any simple answers or fast repairs when I was finished. Rather, she only informed me that she would always be there for me. I finally thought I could manage this at that point. I made the decision to go home from my trip the next day. I was thinking of a full scheme. I would need to tell my brother about what transpired. Even though I was finding this incredibly tough, I made the decision that he should be aware of the reality. His family was Luna and me, and I believed that a family should never keep anything like that from one another. My brother was unexpectedly leaving as I opened the door to my apartment. Liam looked like he was packing for a trip since he had a backpack and a suitcase. I was taken aback. Shouldn't he be preparing for his wedding? Liam greeted me with a bare embrace and a loud "Morgana, I'm so glad you're back home," before I could even reply. "We were rather concerned for you." "I'm happy to be home too, Liam. I apologize for bothering you when Luna." Thank God you're here, Morgana. We were just about to board an aircraft to fly over and pick you up." "Isabella, what are you doing here?" When Isabella emerged from the kitchen with her tiny luggage, I was taken aback. Rather than Luna, it felt like she was the one who was concerned about me. "How do you suppose I'm acting?" I felt compelled to inform Liam about the unpleasant family. "Wait, you told him what happened?" "I'm really sorry, Liam. I was unable to inform you sooner." "It's all right. I understand. You were in a difficult circumstance. But I should be the one to apologize. It's something I could never have anticipated. I'll give you two some room now that you're both safe and at home, okay?" Isabella smiled reassuringly at Liam and me and dragged her bag out the door. She was really appreciated by me. When I was unable to even look out for myself, she was watching out for me. I eventually learned what had transpired in the course of one hectic day when I sat down to speak with Liam. It came out that my brother had called off their engagement because, following what had transpired, he was no longer able to trust Luna. Seeing him go through that was sad, but I knew it was for the best. All I wanted was to have supported him more. A few months later, I began writing and traveling. I reasoned that since traveling to a new location had benefited me so much, it would undoubtedly motivate my writing as well. I began writing a romance novel with the intention of educating young girls about wholesome and sincere relationships. I put my all into it since it was a subject that was dear to my heart. I finally succeeded in getting my book published after months of arduous struggle. A few years have passed since that occurrence, and I have 4 best-selling romance novels. I'm now working on the 5th. You guessed it, my brother is currently dating Isabella. Every time I go back from one of my travels, the 3 of us hang out, and they never fail to make me laugh. I'm overjoyed with how well everything worked out and am looking forward to what lies ahead for us.
That day, I must have been utterly exhausted. After putting my daughter Nia to bed in her crib, I headed to my bedroom and fell asleep instantly. A few hours later, I was abruptly woken by Nicholas crying in the night. Still half asleep, I checked the time on my phone. 1:00 a.m. Good thing I got a little nap earlier, I thought, dragging my tired body up, planning to go to the living room to soothe Nia. Just then, I heard a shouting voice, "Shut up! Be quiet!" For a moment, I couldn't tell where the voice was coming from. I thought maybe my mother-in-law Jamie was yelling from her room, so I said, "Yes, I'm coming to soothe her now," and opened the living room door. There, right in front of me, was Jamie, standing over the crib, glaring at Nia. The next moment, she slapped Nia's face, shouting, "Enough already." "What are you doing?" I yelled louder than I ever had before. Jamie looked surprised for a second, then yelled back, "Why didn't you soothe her sooner? This child is so noisy." Panicking, I rushed over to the crib and lifted Nia to protect her from Jamie. I couldn't believe it, hitting a baby. My name is Candice, a 28-year-old housewife. I used to be an office worker, but I'm currently on maternity leave, focusing on housework and childcare. My husband Miles and I started living with Jamie, my mother-in-law, about a year ago. Miles's job is demanding, and he's rarely home. He was worried about leaving me alone while I was pregnant and felt sorry for Jamie being alone since my father-in-law Willis passed away 2 years ago, so we decided to move in with her. At first, living together went well, but gradually Jamie started showing her true colors, and honestly, I was having a hard time. "Candy, you're really slow at housework, aren't you? Can't you make better food?" Jamie harassed me every chance she got. When Willis was still alive, I didn't have any issues when visiting my in-laws' house, so I didn't particularly dislike Jamie back then. However, after Willis passed away and we started living together, Jamie became an unbearably selfish and rude presence in my life. "Hurry up with the housework. You're really useless, you know. Slow and ugly." Jamie kept insulting me like this. The last part was just mean and had nothing to do with housework. Since I was pregnant, it was natural for me to be slow with chores. But Jamie didn't seem to care. She just seemed desperate to harass me. As for Miles, he's mostly away on business trips and doesn't get home until midnight, even when he's not traveling, so I have to spend most of my days with Jamie. I kept hoping that things would change since the baby was born. Even Jamie, rough as she is, would surely become kinder and gentler living with her grandchild. I was desperately holding on to that hope. I did consult Miles about it on WhatsApp, keeping it to a level that wouldn't trouble his work, and he replied with, "I'm really sorry. I wish I could be there for you during tough times." He also takes care to admonish Jamie when they meet. Knowing that Miles is on my side gives me a little relief. That's why I could bear being scolded by Jamie for not doing the housework well enough while pregnant. Later, I safely gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Miles, blessed him, managed to get permission from his company, saying the baby is being born, and left work early, rushing to the hospital just before I gave birth. When he held our newborn daughter, he looked so happy and said, "She's really cute, like an angel." I was happy too, having given birth to the child of the man I love. I reported the birth of our healthy baby girl to Jamie through WhatsApp. Since we lived together, I thought she might come to visit us in the hospital, but Jamie didn't show up. She didn't even reply on WhatsApp. Could it be that she's not interested in her granddaughter? I started to feel a cold sweat. Will this harassment continue even now? As I was dreading that thought, the door to my hospital room opened. "Candice, how are you feeling?" "Wow, what a cute baby. It's a girl, right? She's going to be beautiful." It was my sister-in-law, Leela, who came to visit. Leela is very kind and cheerful, and she's always been good to me. I've always loved Leela. She's already married and has children, so I had decided to consult her about parenting. "What's her name?" "Miles, and I decided to name her Nia." "Oh, that's a nice name. Wait, hasn't Mom come?" "No, I did contact her, but she ignored the read receipt." "Oh, I see. She's really a pain sometimes, isn't she? Unpredictable and lacking common sense." "Well, yeah. Leela is straightforward, and I've always appreciated that about her. She once told me, if you ever have a problem living with Mom, feel free to vent to me." That really saved me, so I used to honestly complain to Leela when things got really tough. Leela understood Jamie's difficult nature, so she knew that if she scolded Jamie based on what I told her, Jamie would end up taking it out on me. That's why she wouldn't admonish Jamie unless it was really necessary. At that time, just being able to vent was enough to relieve my stress. I had no idea things would get harder after Nia was born. When I got discharged from the hospital and returned home with Nia, Jamie didn't mention her at all. "Hurry up and clean," she said. I couldn't believe it. It was as if she completely ignored Nia's existence. Despite feeling upset, I put Nia in her crib and started cleaning. About 5 minutes later, Jamie started yelling, "Candy, come here." "Yes, what is it?" "That baby is noisy. Do something about her crying." "I'm sorry." Again, I couldn't believe it, referring to her as that baby as if she's a nuisance and telling me to do something about her crying. Jamie continued to treat Nia poorly. "The baby is crying. It stinks. Change her diaper now. The crib is in the way. Shut up, baby." Jamie shouted these things each time, and Nia would cry louder in fright, which made Jamie even angrier. It was a very uncomfortable atmosphere for Nia and me. "Jamie, her name is Nia. Can you please call her by her name?" "Shut up. Don't tell me what to do. You're her mother, so it's your job to take care of her. Make sure I'm comfortable." "Look, she's crying again." Nicola had started crying because Jamie yelled. I had just put her to bed. I had to stop my chores and go soothe Nicola, and if that delayed the housework, Jamie would get mad about that too. When I put Nicola back to bed and resumed my chores, Jamie said, "This is really in the way, takes up so much space," and kicked the crib. The crib shook, and Nicola woke up crying again. "What are you doing, Jamie?" "Shut up. It's your fault for putting such a big thing here." "But it was you who told us to put the bed in the living room because it's noisy when she cries at night in our room." "Are you complaining to me now? Stop arguing and soothe that noisy child." "That noisy child? This person is really the worst." I had no choice but to do my chores while holding Nicola. Trying to balance housework and childcare without angering Jamie was really tough, and I was gradually getting exhausted. If I focused too much on childcare, I'd be scolded for being slow at housework. If I focused on chores, I'd be berated for parenting. Miles was away on a business trip for about 2 months and wasn't home. I couldn't bear it and tried consulting him over WhatsApp and phone, but he seemed busy and couldn't talk long. He'd apologized many times saying, "I'm really sorry for the hard times." But I felt guilty making him apologize when he was working so hard for our family. Then something unbelievable happened. That day, maybe because I was so tired, I fell asleep as soon as I put Nicola in her crib and went to my bedroom. A few hours must have passed when I suddenly woke up to Nicola crying in the night. Still half asleep, I checked the time on my mobile phone. 1:00 a.m. Good thing I got a little nap earlier, I thought, dragging my tired body up, planning to go to the living room to soothe Nicola. Just then, I heard a shouting voice, "Shut up! Be quiet!" For a moment, I couldn't tell where the voice was coming from. I thought maybe Jamie was yelling from her room, so I said, "Yes, I'm coming to soothe her now," and opened the living room door. There, right in front of me, was Jamie standing over the crib, glaring at Nicola. The next moment, she slapped Nicola's face, shouting, "Enough already." "What are you doing?" I yelled louder than I ever had before. Jamie looked surprised for a second, then yelled back, "Why didn't you soothe her sooner? She's so noisy, this child." Panicking, I rushed over to the crib and lifted Nicola to protect her from Jamie. I couldn't believe it, hitting a baby. Could this person really be human, hitting a 3-month-old baby? Nicola was crying louder than I had ever heard before, and her face had turned red. I immediately called an ambulance. At the hospital, the doctor examined Nicola. He said her face was red, but there was no worry about bruises or injuries, which relieved me. I almost collapsed on the spot. "What happened? Did you drop her on the floor or something?" the doctor asked. I explained the situation to the doctor. Right then, Leela entered the room. "Candy, is Nicola okay?" "Oh, Leela." In my panic, I had called her. While in the ambulance, I called Leela despite it being the middle of the night since Miles was on a business trip and couldn't come immediately. Leela explained to the doctor about Jamie hitting Nicola. The doctor was speechless and Leela was shaking with anger. The next day, I went home with Leela. I let her enter the house alone to confront Jamie. Jamie acted as if nothing had happened, harassing me as usual. "You're late. Hurry up and make breakfast. You missed taking out the trash because you came home in the morning. You really can't do housework. Enough already. Did you forget what happened yesterday? You hit a 3-month-old baby, remember? How can you act so normally? First, apologize for yesterday." Jamie's face turned red with anger. "What? Why should I apologize? That child was the noisy one. I just slapped her because she wouldn't listen. It's a part of discipline. I thought she wouldn't be quiet otherwise." "That's not discipline. It's just violence." "Enough so noisy. Just do your chores already." "Jamie, you don't regret it at all, do you? You don't even think you did anything wrong." "Leela, please come in." Leela entered the living room as I called her. "Why is Leela here?" "Mom, what are you doing? I can't believe you did such a thing." "No, that's, Jamie was flustered by Leela's arrival. "Mom, you do realize that what you did is legally punishable, right?" Jamie's face turned pale. "Leela, you're not going to sue your own mother, are you? The one who's going to sue is Candiff. I'll just be her lawyer." "But wait, it was just a part of her education." Who would agree that hitting a baby is education? This is a case of assault. No matter how much Jamie tried to justify her actions, they could never be excused. "I'll definitely sue you. Be prepared," I told Jamie. Jamie began to cry quietly. "I'm sorry, Candy. I always lose control when I get angry and end up regretting it later. I've always been depressed and regretful about how I treated you and Nia. I truly am sorry for what happened. Why did I raise my hand to her? I always wanted a boy for the eldest grandson. It was also Willis's wish." Willis's wish? It might be an old-fashioned thought, but we always hoped for a boy to carry on the family line. When a girl was born instead, I was happy about the birth of a granddaughter, but also felt like I failed to fulfill a promise to Willis. Every time I got angry, I couldn't control myself. "I'm really sorry." Jamie continued speaking through her tears. "Please, Candy, change me. I'll do anything." Jamie said this and then deeply apologized. "Jamie, please calm down. Let's talk properly first." No, I've done something terrible. No amount of apologies will ever be enough. Jamie kept apologizing repeatedly. I felt my heart wavering and almost forgave her. That's when Leela spoke up. Don't take her seriously, Candy. Mom always pretends to be deeply remorseful like this when she's cornered just to end criticism against her. Huh. She did the same when Dad found out about her affair. He forgave her because he fell for her act, but her tears dried up immediately afterward. This is probably just an act too, right? You can't fool me. Leela's observation made Jamie falter. What are you saying, Leela? Looking closely, Jamie's tears, which were flowing heavily just a moment ago, had already dried up. It was likely fake crying. Jamie, I can't forgive you anymore. How twisted can you be to try to weasel out of what you've done? Wait a minute, I'm not trying to escape anything. Okay, I understand. But we've already decided to take legal action. As I said that, Jamie's face turned red with anger. Don't joke with me. Why should I be subjected to this by a daughter-in-law like you? How insolent. Just then, the sound of the house key turning was heard. Candy, is Nicola safe? Miles asked. Miles, why are you here? I thought he couldn't come since he was on a business trip. I had only contacted him on WhatsApp. I called him several times in the middle of the night, then he drove straight here. Miles had been driving since 3:00 a.m. and arrived this morning. I didn't know Miles was coming too. Mom, cut it out. I've been hearing about your harassment from Candy, and I've been warning you every time, haven't I? And now you've gone and hit my precious Nicola. I'll never forgive you for this. Miles, even you're blaming me? How cruel, after I raised you and Leela. What are you talking about? You always left us with Aunt to play around. Our memories are filled with the meals Aunt cooked, not you. Mom, just give it up. Besides, I think the doctor already reported it yesterday. Huh. The hospital knows you hit her, so I think it's just a matter of time before the police come. No, wait. You're okay with your mother being arrested. I'd rather not have someone who hits a 3-month-old baby around. No matter what you say, Mom, you have no one on your side now. Jamie finally seemed to understand her situation. Pale-faced and slumped, she waited. Soon, the police arrived and Jamie was arrested. As a first-time offender, she received a suspended sentence, but Miles and Leela cut ties with her and issued restraining orders. Miles moved out of the in-laws' house with me and Nicola and rented an apartment while looking for a place. We stayed briefly with Leela, which was a great help. Candy, I'm really sorry for everything. I'll take parental leave. If I can't get it, I'll change apartments or even jobs to ensure your and Nicola's safety. I was so happy to hear Miles say that. His company had some issues with the working environment and he couldn't get parental leave, so he resigned and found another job. Now he comes home on time, helps with Nicola and the housework. We live in a high-rise near Leela's family, often gathering for meals or enjoying barbecues. I don't know what's become of Jamie, but I heard from neighbors that after her arrest, she's become completely isolated and doesn't go out anymore. Prideful Jamie probably can't bear being known as someone who did such terrible things. Well, it doesn't matter to me anymore. She doesn't know where we moved, so there's no chance of meeting or her showing up unexpectedly. I plan to live happily, supporting each other as a family with Miles, Nicola, and Leela's family. Nice to meet you. The woman who entered the room suddenly greeted me. If I marry this woman, my father's debts will be wiped out, I thought. However, she had a scar on her face, and more importantly, there was my father to consider. Are you really okay with this? When I asked, she fell silent for a while. My name is Chris Baker, 45 years old. I was an only child raised by my father who ran a small-town factory and my timid mother. My dad had a strong streak of independence from a young age and started a metalworking factory in his mid-20s. However, the business never did well, and my parents quarreled almost every night. By the time I entered junior high, I realized their business was on the brink of collapse. It was clear that it would be better to give up. Still, my dad never lost hope and always smiled in front of me. I lived a poor life because of my dad, but seeing him work, I couldn't truly resent him. Eventually, I started helping out in the factory. It turned out that I really was my dad's son. I had a natural talent for precision work. I wanted to work in the same field, but who knew how long the factory would last? With those mixed feelings, I studied at a technical high school and helped at the factory when I got home. I led a life far removed from club activities or romance. In my senior year of high school, I planned to take over my dad's factory. However, my dad strongly opposed this and said, "It's not that easy." He also insisted, "At least get some experience at other companies first." I thought it would be the same since it was the same industry, but he wouldn't budge no matter how much I tried to persuade him. While I thought it was my lack of ability back then, maybe he just didn't want me to go through the same struggles. After a fight with my dad, I left home. I got a job at a steel plant in a neighboring state, working hard every day. My dad's unique way of doing things had rubbed off on me, and I often got scolded by my experienced colleagues. Meanwhile, my dad kept running his business on the edge. He never gave up his old-fashioned quality over quantity mindset and ran the business without thinking about profit. There was even talk of a merger once because of his skills, but he turned that down, saying it would lower the quality. I was so exasperated by his stubbornness that I couldn't say anything. Even so, I had no time to worry about my family. Work consumed me daily, and romance or marriage were far from my mind. My 20s and 30s flew by, and I suddenly found myself in my 40s. Just when I thought I had finally become a full-fledged adult, my parents started to weaken. My dad suddenly collapsed one hot August and passed away in the hospital the following winter. The strain from his hard work must have caught up with him. If he had been checked earlier, there might have been a chance for recovery. My mom blamed herself for not forcing him to go to the hospital. But even if she did, he probably wouldn't have gone no matter what. It was such a sudden farewell that I couldn't even cry. Nevertheless, when I saw the rusty factory at home for the first time in decades, I couldn't stop crying. I would never see my dad standing there again. In the end, I had always been watching his back. I finally realized that after turning 40. Anyway, the factory had to be closed. I wanted to take over and rebuild it, but it wasn't realistic. Just when I decided to carry on my dad's spirit in my own way and move forward out of nowhere, my life took an unexpected turn. It all started with my dad's debt. We discovered that he had racked up several $1,000s of debt, which even my mom didn't realize. The money was borrowed from a factory owner he had known for years, Mr. Adams. Mr. Adams used to play with me a few times when I was a kid. He and my dad frequently visited each other's factories and had quite a close relationship. Mr. Adams switched to mass production early on and quickly flourished. Now his factory is one of the most prominent in town. About a month after my dad's funeral, Mr. Adams called me over. It was surely about the debt. I thought if I paid it back little by little, I might be able to clear it while I'm still alive. Although I didn't know how to apologize, I headed to see him. However, what I heard there was shocking. "We'll take over your father's factory and clear the debt," Mr. Adams declared. I thought it was a joke, but he continued, "In return, I'd like you to marry my daughter." I thought I was dreaming, but he was dead serious. Mr. Adams has only one daughter. She was 32 and single at the time, working in his company's office. She had never been married and had no children. He simply said, "I want her to settle down soon. If I marry her, the debt will be gone. Besides, though our factory will be absorbed, the machinery and skills will be preserved. However, if I refuse the marriage, it all goes away." I was bewildered and bombarded him with questions. "Well, I don't have much experience with relationships," I stammered. I blurted it out before I could even feel embarrassed. "Neither does my daughter. Just meet her once," he calmly said. That night, I was invited to Mr. Adams' house, waiting in a room for his daughter to arrive. When the door opened, I gasped. She had a large burn scar on her face, with the skin color differing on each side, making it clear that something had happened. I understood why Mr. Adams wanted me to marry her to clear the debt. It was probably hard for her to find marriage prospects because of the scar. What hurt me the most was that she accepted such a terrible arrangement. "My name is Lisa Adams. Nice to meet you." Lisa greeted me politely. She didn't seem to have any intention of opposing her father's wishes. When I couldn't say anything out of confusion, she said, "I've heard the situation from my father. If you're okay with it, I don't mind." She spoke matter-of-factly. She got the scar as a child when she snuck into the factory to play and got burned. From my perspective, the arrangement seemed beneficial. The debt would be cleared, the factory would remain, and I would get married. However, there was no benefit for Lisa. We stared at each other in silence for a while. All I could think about was my dad, who had left me with an impossible situation. Even if I wanted to hate him, I couldn't. Maybe that was the only thing Lisa and I had in common. "Are you really okay with this?" I asked, looking into her eyes. The silence continued, and soon tears welled up in her eyes. Eventually, she started crying like a child and murmured, "I can't accept this." She had been just forcing herself to accept it. "Then let's call this off," I suggested. "I can handle the debt and the factory on my own. I can't drag her into this," I said to myself. However, Lisa stopped me, wiping her tears. "No, I have to do something," she insisted, showing concern for me. I thought harder than I ever had in my life and then came to a conclusion. "Lisa, I have an idea if it's okay with you." I shared my idea with her, and she nodded slightly. "I told Mr. Adams I would like to marry your daughter, but could we have a bit of a courtship period? We've only just met." That was my answer, and he accepted. I quit my previous job at the steel plant and joined Mr. Adams' company. I also moved into his house as Lisa's fiancé. That meant the debt was, of course, cleared, and our factory was absorbed. I began modifying the techniques my dad had protected for mass production. I worked tirelessly every day. Mr. Adams let me work freely as long as I could make a profit. I continued to study my dad's notes, experimenting and learning. I came to realize how delicate and brilliant my dad's techniques were despite how pathetic he had seemed. When I came home, Lisa would be there waiting with dinner. Sometimes we'd share meals with Mr. Adams and his family, enjoying warm conversations. "I can't wait for the wedding," Mr. Adams would say with a smile, and Lisa and I would smile back. "Are you still up?" Lisa would ask in our shared bedroom. "It's for both of us," I'd reply, continuing my work. "Thank you," she'd whisper. Closing her eyes on my desk, there'd be my work clothes that she had ironed for me. Seeing them always reminded me of my dad and mom. Time flew by, and 3 years passed quickly. One night, we had a rare family dinner with Mr. Adams present. To Chris's incredible achievements, cheers. In those 3 years, I proposed a new production line using my dad's techniques that brought significant profits to the company. If things continued as planned, the debt my dad left would be easily surpassed. "Now I can trust Lisa to you even more. Isn't it about time for the wedding?" Mr. Adams said cheerfully. How wonderful it would be if things could continue like that. However, everything I had done was leading up to that moment. "Mr. Adams, we're not getting married," I said, looking him straight in the eye. Next to me, Lisa had the same look, but her hands were trembling. I felt the same. We had both been lying for the past 3 years. What I had proposed to her at that first meeting was to lie to Mr. Adams about getting married and delay the marriage during the courtship period. During that time, I would make enough profit to cover the debt and carry on my dad's techniques. Once that was achieved, I planned to tell Mr. Adams everything. It was the only way to achieve my goal and give Lisa the freedom to marry whomever she wanted. In those 3 years, I honestly hadn't laid a finger on her. We lived together because of his watchful eyes, but our engagement was just an act. Both of us kept a respectful distance. As expected, Mr. Adams was stunned. Instead of the angry outburst I anticipated, he'd apologized to her. "I'm sorry for what I've done," he said. Lisa had never defied her father before. Seeing the determined look on her face, he seemed to reflect on his own behavior. He allowed us not to marry. Moreover, he said I could stay at the company or even go independent if I wished. Mr. Adams apologized to her for imposing his ideas on her. "I'm truly sorry. From now on, live freely." Seeing her father apologizing, Lisa started crying. Now she could decide her life on her own terms. Afterward, I decided to stay at the company and continue working as I had. Yet I couldn't stay with the Adams family anymore. That was my last night with Lisa. We kept our usual distance. "Thank you so much." Lisa thanked me politely, just like the first time we met. That time, her expression was bright and relieved. "At first, I thought your proposal was impossible, but you really accomplished everything," she continued. "It's thanks to you, Lisa, but it's not all done yet," I said, facing her and closing the distance a bit. She looked surprised and tensed up. I was determined to fulfill my true final goal. Back then, I hadn't seriously thought about that. However, over the 3 years, that had become my sole desire. "Lisa, will you marry me?" Over those 3 years, I had come to realize her beauty and kindness. Her scar didn't matter at all. I was just supported by her inner strength. When she gained the freedom to choose marriage, I would propose to her. That had become my true goal. She stared at me wide-eyed. Of course, she had the right and the courage to refuse. Nevertheless, I wanted her to choose now that she was free. If marrying me is really what you want, I'd be happy, I said. When I said that, she nodded. That time, she closed the distance between us a bit. Seeing her tears, my eyes filled up as well. As the unstoppable tears flowed, I remembered my dad with nothing but gratitude. A year later, we got married. I still remember the shocked look on Mr. Adams' face when we told him about our marriage. I still continue working for him now. My dad's techniques are at the forefront of the industry. He's probably smiling shyly in the afterlife. Are you still up? Lisa whispered next to me. I still want to work. I started to say, then added, well, let's go to bed, and took her hand. I never thought I'd have a family. Maybe this is the version of me my dad always wanted to see. Brian, could you consider marrying Carol again? Are you serious? The hospital director, Larry, with a pale face, proposed the idea of remarriage to me. Beside him stood his trembling eldest daughter, Carol, who had a secret she couldn't tell anyone. My name is Brian Coleman. I work as a doctor at a privately run hospital. 5 years ago, I married my wife, Sarah, and we were living happily until she passed away 3 years ago in a car accident. Sarah was also a doctor, and because she wanted to focus on her career, we didn't have any children. Brian, I need to talk to you. One day, the hospital director, Larry, approached me in the hospital. Thinking it was about work, I went to his office. Hi, Brian, he greeted me, and there was Carol, Sarah's older sister. Carol is 3 years older than Sarah. She is not a doctor but works in administration and has always seemed quiet and a bit shy. The sisters were very close, and Sarah often referred to her as her beloved sister and looked up to her. Carol had a fiancé who was supposed to take over the hospital one day. Since Sarah's passing, I hadn't had the chance to ask how she was doing, but I heard she was going to get married soon. Carol, who was waiting for me in the director's office, looked pale. Although she looked at me, she said nothing. Brian, I'm sorry for calling you so suddenly. I have something important to discuss with you today. Something important. When I was asked to have a seat on the sofa in the office, I sat across from Larry and Carol, who both had troubled looks on their faces. Yes, I know it's outrageous to ask this of you, but Brian, could you consider marrying Carol again? Are you serious? I couldn't believe the unexpected words from Larry. Carol? Wait, Carol is Sarah's. Yes, Sarah's biological sister, Larry confirmed. When I instinctively looked at Carol, she was still pale and trembling slightly. Something felt off about her demeanor and Larry's urgent tone. Thinking that, I swallowed hard and tried to calm my confused thoughts. Is there some kind of situation? I gently asked. Larry stared at me. Even though Sarah had passed away, I still considered Larry, her father, as my father-in-law. He had treated me like his own son ever since I started dating Sarah. He even said that if Carol's fiancé wasn't in the picture, he would want me to take over the hospital. If there's something going on, please tell me. Sarah is no longer here, but I still think of you as my important family. Brian, thank you. Hearing my words, Larry took off his glasses and pressed his eyes. As you know, this hospital has been passed down from my father, and we've managed to keep it running for generations. It's not a big hospital, but for the sake of the locals who have relied on us for years, I feel we must continue running it. Yes, that's true, I agreed. However, I don't have a son, so to keep the hospital running, I need a son-in-law, Larry continued. Bringing in an outsider or letting a relative take over is an option, but they only see this hospital as a money-making box. He then looked at Carol with a caring expression. Carol has gone through a lot as the eldest daughter, he muttered, then looked at me to change the subject. Carol says she doesn't want to get married. Doesn't want to get married? Yet you want me to marry Carol? But she has a fiancé, right? You're right, but the fiancé is not trustworthy. He's been pretending all this time, Larry said, clenching his fists in anger. I can't let that man marry Carol, so I broke off the engagement. But in the future, more men like him will approach Carol to inherit this hospital. As I said earlier, their goal is the hospital and the money. That's why, even if it's just for show, I want you to marry Carol. Larry's disappointment and frustration towards those who approached for money and his hope for Carol's happiness were palpable from his clenched fists. I understand the situation, but why me? I was Carol's sister, namely Sarah's husband. Larry looked at me calmly. From both of our perspectives, you are the only man we can trust in this world. I am the only one. I glanced at Carol, who was looking down but nodded slightly. You are the only one, Brian. As a doctor, you understand the importance of a hospital for patients and have considered the future of this hospital with me. That's why I want you to marry Carol and inherit this hospital. I see. These unexpected words left me speechless. I always felt Larry treated me like his own son, but I didn't realize he trusted me that much. I want Carol to be happy. Please, can you help her? He pleaded. Next to him, Carol also trembled as she did the same. Even though I had lost my wife, I had once decided to live as part of her family. Above all, they were her beloved ones. All right, I will help. I nodded to Larry and Carol. So Carol, let's take care of each other from now on. Yes, thank you very much. Even though it was just a formality, we registered our marriage and moved into a house prepared by Larry, considering the eyes of those around us. However, we had separate bedrooms to respect each other's privacy. Carol, let's feel relaxed as if we were a real couple because this is our house. Is that okay? Of course, she agreed. Though Carol was Sarah's sister and not a stranger, there were no romantic feelings between us. It was a marriage in name only. But there was something on my mind. Carol, shall we talk about Sarah tonight? Yes, she replied. After dinner, while drinking hot milk in the living room, I spoke to Carol. She was sitting across from me, looking down. Since our marriage was decided, there had been a slight awkwardness. I could sense her tension around me. We had already begun living together, and I wanted us to at least get along like friends. As I mentioned earlier, since losing Sarah, I've talked to friends who knew her and shared memories. But friends aren't family. You and your family cherish Sarah the most, I said. Carol listened intently to my words. So tonight, let's talk about Sarah over drinks. I'd love to hear stories about her childhood from you. You really cherished Sarah, didn't you? She asked. Of course. Sarah was my comrade, my best friend, and my beloved wife. When I answered confidently, Carol smiled gently. It was the first smile I had seen from her in a while. Sarah was so lucky. What? Sarah was so lucky to be cherished like that, she repeated, smiling again. But this time it looked a bit lonely. After that, we had a few drinks, calling it a housewarming party, and talked. Carol, usually quiet, spoke happily about Sarah. She showed how much she cared for Sarah, which made me happy. Brian, thank you. What makes you say that? For accepting my father's proposal to marry me, she said. With the alcohol taking effect, Carol became a bit more open. So again, thank you. You were Sarah's husband, but you agreed to marry me. It's okay, Carol. Like I told your father, you're an important family to me. Then I started to talk about my own family. My parents had a bad relationship and divorced when I was still young. After that, I was raised by my father, but he was the kind of person who never really thought of me as his son. Selfish and inconsiderate. That's why from high school on, I studied and worked hard, got a scholarship, and went to college. During my college years, I spent all my time studying and working part-time jobs. I didn't have a moment to go out. After enduring all those hardships, I met Sarah at the hospital and was treated like a son by Larry. That's when I learned the warmth of family. That's why I care about you too. It's nice to hear, Carol said with relief. Then she slowly stood up and moved to stand beside me. Carol, I have something I need to tell you. Something to tell me? Her sudden serious tone made my heart race nervously. Nodding, Carol slowly raised her left arm and rolled up the sleeve of her jacket. Oh my, this? Seeing the scars there, I was so shocked I nearly fell over. They were vivid, raw scars. I couldn't tell anyone that my fiancé was abusing me both verbally and physically. As the daughter of the hospital, I felt I couldn't let go of someone who would be a big plus for the hospital because of my personal feelings, Carol revealed. Carol's former fiancé was the second son of a major hospital. He was also a doctor, and marrying him would secure the future of Carol's hospital. After Sarah passed away, he brought up the topic of marriage. Until then, he had been kind and amiable. But suddenly, I had a thought. Is he really the right one? So I told him we should postpone the wedding. That's when he changed completely. Carol hugged herself tightly. From then on, he verbally abused and threatened me every day. He wanted to control me completely. Sometimes he even got violent. I can't believe it, I said, shocked. I endured and endured, but I couldn't talk to anyone about it, and I lost myself. These scars are from that time when I felt utterly hopeless. Her former fiancé had changed after Sarah's death. Since I hadn't seen her during that period, I had no idea she was going through that. When I thought I couldn't take it anymore, my parents visited me at my place. They later told me they just felt an urgent need to see me. Seeing their faces, I finally broke down and told them everything. She recalled those days, and tears welled up in her eyes, her voice trembling. Knowing the situation, my father was furious and broke off the engagement. We received some compensation from him. But that's not the end of it, is it? I muttered, struggling to contain my anger. She looked at me with shaking eyes. Realizing I was frowning at the thought of her pain, I quickly came to my senses. Oh, sorry. What's wrong? Nothing. Then she smiled, looking relieved. That's why I thought you were the right choice. Since what happened with him, I lost trust in people, especially men. I was scared just having them close. It's understandable. Even hearing the story made it clear how horrifically Carol had been treated by her ex-fiancé. My father was worried about me, so he suggested the remarriage to you. He knew you were Sarah's husband and knew you were a kind, gentle, and wise person. Her face clouded with a look of guilt. But I'm sorry for dragging you into my selfishness and causing you trouble. It's not trouble at all. Really? Sure. Besides, this isn't selfish, Carol. You tried to move forward again. I stood up slowly and gently extended my right hand to her. You haven't given up on trusting people or overcoming your fear of men. So I'll do everything I can to help because you're an important family to me. Brian, hearing my words, she bit her lip hard. Tears streamed down her cheeks and wet her trembling lips. Can I hold your hand? Yes. I gently touched Carol's hand. She flinched for a moment, but as I slowly and gently held her hand, the trembling gradually subsided. It's all right, Carol. I'm not like that jerk. When I deliberately said it firmly, her eyes widened and she looked at me. Once she smiled, she exhaled deeply and seemed to feel relieved. Yeah, he never touched me gently like this. He seemed kind on the surface, but he was nothing like you. She took another deep breath and exhaled. Seeing her savor the moment, I felt an overwhelming joy, and tears welled up in my eyes. Carol, let's slowly start regaining the real you. Don't worry. I'll be with you. When I said this with a serious look, she stared at me and nodded slowly. I'm glad it's you who's here with me. She squeezed my hand tightly in return. From that day on, we started living together as a couple. Having built a relationship of trust, we often talked about Sarah. Those were peaceful, happy times. I think it was Sarah who guided me to avoid marrying my ex-fiancé and for my parents to come to help me. You think so? Yes. If I had married him, my life would have been a disaster by now. And I think it was Sarah who made it possible for me to live with you. Indeed, if it weren't for Sarah, I wouldn't have remarried Carol. Because of Sarah, I experienced the warmth of her family and learned the warmth of having a home. We owe Sarah so much. For sure. We looked at each other and laughed, squeezing each other's hands tightly. A few years later, Carol and I truly became a married couple. When our child was born, Larry shed tears of joy. Lucas, be kind to your sister Sophia, okay? Okay, Mom. Come on, Sophia. Let's go. Okay, Lucas. Now, I live happily with my beloved wife Carol and our adorable son and daughter.